I hope you like trains and Jeeps, because we drove this thing 1,609 miles over 4 days to chase Union Pacific's 4014 Big Boy across the Nevada desert and up the Feather River Canyon in California. We'll take you along on our trip to some remote spots and show you what it took to stay ahead of Big Boy for some epic views of the biggest steam locomotive in the world. While these trips are usually Ashley and I, this one's a little different. I'll have our good friend Ben along as co-pilot. After 2 decades working for the railroad and 3 decades of volunteer experience, he's a walking library of railroad knowledge, and I'm excited to see what he has to share with us. After a great dinner at Great Basin Brewing in Sparks, Nevada, where we spotted this awesome 1950s Jeep FC-150 beer truck, we headed to Elko to start our chase. So we're heading out to chase 4014 Big Boy.
It's the largest operating steam locomotive in the entire United States.
Yep.
Probably the world.
So we drove out to Elko, Nevada last night and grabbed a room at the Holiday Inn, and we're gonna head out to a tunnel that it's gonna pass through and hopefully get some shots of it there.
Yeah, the Union Pacific's running the special excursion this whole year in celebration of the 250th anniversary of the United States. So this is the western leg of the trip. The Big Boy left Cheyenne, Wyoming last week and is headed to Roseville, California. And when it gets there, it'll spend a couple days there, then turn around and head back to Cheyenne before it goes through some servicing and on to the next leg of its journey. So we're getting an opportunity to run out to a couple spots along the railroad and photograph it. Yeah, we're going to go out and scout a few locations. Just due to the time departure, the sun isn't quite right for some of the photographs that we want to make, but we're trying to find some angles that suit ourselves.
And gasoline's $9.19 a gallon here. I'm sorry.
$9.19 a gallon.
What is that, a little foreshadowing of things to come?
It will be by the time we get to Gerlach, Nevada.
Gasoline is $4.19 a gallon here. A solid $2 cheaper than home.
Yeah, so this portion of the trip was made cheaper by the fact that gasoline is more affordable, but you can only imagine what it does for the pocketbook driving a vehicle to get 16 miles per gallon. That's why we're together in one vehicle today, instead of driving 2 different Jeeps.
And I have no idea where I'm going.
Yes, I'm the tour guide.
Brought to you by Ben, the tour guide, who actually knows things about trains.
Sometimes.
I just think they're cool and huge and loud. Well, they have a lot of power.
That's the one thing that's interesting. So there's a lot of talk in the train enthusiast community. People kind of sometimes look down upon train enthusiasts as being a little special, but a lot of people can agree that when a steam locomotive comes out, it's kind of a special event. And in the western region, there's not a lot of mainline steam locomotive action, so this gets all sorts of people out in the woodwork. You know, rail enthusiasts, just general photographers, people who like history. So it's kind of a neat event to experience.
How far up the road are we going here?
About 5 miles. We're just going outside town. There's some tunnels west of Elko, right before Carlin, that we're going to attempt to see if we can get a good shot at. So we're going to scope that out and see if it's any good. And if not, we might double back and backtrack to the eastern side of the tunnels, because there's a couple older buildings that might make a good picture instead.
So we're here and looking for where our shot is. I think we'll get our shot here before we chase the train into Palisade Canyon. There it is, our first shot of the thing. At this point, we had already driven 450 miles, so it was really exciting to finally catch our first glimpse of Big Boy. Okay, here he comes. And that is camera shutters you hear. Ben and I are taking tons of photos, as are all the people around us. While this first encounter was exciting, it couldn't hold a candle to what we'd see later in the day. You won't believe the awesome views we got before we made camp in the desert outside Winnemucca. As soon as the train disappeared through that cut, we jumped in the Jeep, shot right past Carlin, and headed for Palisade Canyon. We would cover hundreds of miles of dirt road on this trip, and Palisade Canyon was just the beginning.
We're set up at a spot called Palisade Canyon. A couple of tunnels here. Got David down there getting his shot, figuring out his angle.
All right, so we're gonna shoot this spot here. If you pan over, Ben's up here. There's another guy shooting some video. Signal's gone red, so it won't be much longer. Yeah, should be coming out of that left tunnel.
It's a bumpy road.
Yeah. So we've left Palisade Canyon. When you're shooting out of Carlin, there's usually one or two spots you have to take a photograph, and unless you have a spaceship or a plane or helicopter, you're not going to be able to catch up with the train again unless you go back out to the interstate and then drive west out toward this place called Beowawe. Hopefully I pronounced that right. So that's where we're headed now, to intercept the steam engine. And hopefully there's some more good shots on hand.
Yep, we're not doing 80 miles an hour.
No.
We'll get there reasonably quickly at our not 80 miles an hour.
You know, whatever the posted speed limit is on this road. I have no idea what it is.
I don't know, probably 55. That's probably what we're doing.
Something like that. It's a high rail.
That is what that is, isn't it?
That's a railroad track inspection vehicle. What they do nowadays is they take a normal pickup truck and they put train wheels on it and you mount it on top of the rail, and so people that work on the railroad can inspect the railroad that way from the
Shoot it a little bit.
comfort of their vehicle.
It's not as cool as the old Willys high rails. There's a 3-door Willys wagon, I think, out at Cazadero.
That's good to take small clips. Oh, wow. You know, the image stabilizing capability of the iPhone never ceases to amaze me. I could not keep my hands straight, and the video looks amazing on the phone, so.
We'll see how this looks, because that thing's jiggling pretty hard. We just passed the sign for Beowawe, I suppose. Crescent Valley. It's coming up in about a mile.
Yeah, so we're just gonna butcher all the pronunciations today.
Yep. Beowawe.
Don't know. I'm sure there's some history behind it, which we'll tell you.
Maybe we'll even look it up.
Possibly. I know there's a cemetery there.
So there's some history.
There's some history.
All right, so we'll take this exit.
Interesting thing is when you're driving in central Nevada across Interstate 80, it appears there's absolutely nothing out here, but when you look things up in the history books about, you know, the Pony Express or other historical tidbits, that it seems there used to be a lot more people living out here than there are now.
Yeah, I mean, you figure if you were on foot or wagon train or whatever, you know, you were stopping a lot more. You know, nobody was doing 1,000 miles in a day. Beowawe, 6 miles. Crescent Valley, 19.
Yeah, this little road that we're on is not really a direct route to the tracks, but there's a couple spots where we'll have an opportunity to see the tracks from an okay distance, maybe catch some video.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice little valley with some green in it. That probably won't be the case in a few months.
No, this is definitely a high desert in the middle of Nevada.
Yeah, we've done 82 miles so far today.
Well, the steam engine did a lot better than we thought. We're here at Beowawe, and the steam engine stopped, so we'll get a quick shot of it, and then we're going to head back to the highway, get ahead of it again.
4014 is right here in this intersection in Beowawe, and I think it's going to roll soon. I'm parked sideways across the road here.
Right.
We'll be here. Here comes a semi that we should probably back up for. I should probably cross the road, actually.
Oh, hot rail, hot rail. Hot rail, hot rail.
Because they're going to blow again before they bounce, right?
Yeah, 2 longs. I tell them to highball.
We just need to be the first people out of here.
It's tough to beat it to Battle Mountain if there's no slow orders for the train, because they go that way and we have to go the opposite direction.
Yeah.
We go like this.
Great. And I gotta roll away.
Let's get out of here. Good.
So, we were the first people out of there. So, yeah, that was Beowawe. Next. All right, so we just crossed the tracks on Interstate 80, coming up on the Dunphy exit 254. There's a bunch of foamers along the road here. And I think we're gonna, oh, is that them? That's our guys.
Yeah.
So they didn't go into where we were.
No.
They just shot right up here to Dunphy. It's kind of a funny name. We're gonna take the Dunphy exit.
Trying to Dunphy ourselves.
If you've got your phone and camera ready, because who knows what's gonna happen. The train's moving pretty good, and we had to take a longer route than the rail. So, speed, power.
Speed.
We're gonna go this way.
Just cost, you know, a little bit of money. We'll see if we're going to be lucky enough to beat it to the overpass that it goes under.
So I looked it up, and the pronunciation is actually Dunphy, named for William Dunphy, the Irish immigrant who settled in Boulder Valley in 1870.
Well, the chase is on.
That was awesome.
We'll be having some pacing shots in a little while. We're following on a frontage road alongside
Actually,
the
right
locomotive.
here we're pacing it.
So,
So the train's right here, and I think he'll get some video of it.
yeah, enjoy.
I've learned some interesting things since chasing Big Boy. Of the 25 Big Boys originally commissioned, only 8 still remain today, and only 4014 is operational, making it the world's largest operating steam locomotive.
Fairly next to it, I think, still, right? Yeah, just ahead of it.
Look,
So we're doing
about 30 miles an hour. We're pacing it.
Yeah, 30, 35. Yeah, we're pacing it almost dead steady at 35. So it's not moving fast right here. The engine is right here. So Ben's been able to get some videos and some pictures. And we're gonna pop out from behind this rail yard in, I don't know, 15 seconds. I don't know how long this frontage road lasts.
Hopefully it goes down to another spot we can get. Actually, I should probably check that.
You
right
should,
now.
or
look.
the train's right there, so.
Yeah, I know. Slow down into it.
Yeah, there it is. Nice clear view.
Big Boys are 133 feet long and weigh 1.2 million pounds. That's almost twice as long and 3 times as heavy as your typical diesel locomotive. In fact, it's almost twice the maximum takeoff weight of a fully loaded Boeing 747.
This road, there was a sign that said, rough road.
Big Boys have a 4-8-8-4 wheel arrangement. 4 pilot wheels at the front of the engine. 8 drivers on the first engine. Another 8 drivers on the second engine. And finally, 4 wheels to support the rear of the locomotive. Because Big Boys are so long, they are articulated or hinged in the middle. This is required so they can negotiate curves. You'll be able to see this articulation in action on the final day of our chase, as Big Boy rounds the bend just after the North Fork Bridge in the Feather River Canyon.
Another camera?
Guy I know is a pilot today on the locomotive. I want to see if I can get a picture of him. Sure, I'll use one of those.
I've been just pacing it the whole time.
Yeah, this is what I wanted.
And we're gonna come out behind the bushes right here.
The first Big Boy was delivered in 1941, and they operated primarily between Ogden, Utah and Cheyenne, Wyoming. After serving over 1 million miles, number 4014 was retired in December 1961. Union Pacific reacquired it from the Rail Giants Train Museum in Pomona, California, and finally returned it to service in 2019. The 7 other Big Boys that still exist are on public display in St. Louis, Missouri, Dallas, Texas, Omaha, Nebraska, Denver, Colorado, Scranton, Pennsylvania, Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Want me to get a little more of its nose, or?
I was just trying to get a picture of my buddy. That's the pilot. Got a little Snapchat for the people that Snapchat with me. Oh, there it is. That is a hot rail. It's 100% hot rail. Who's that guy? Who's that guy right there? Hot rail.
All right, here we go. And we're back out in the open.
In addition to the 24 wheels on the locomotive itself, the tender alone has 14. And while it used to carry 56,000 pounds of coal, it was converted to number 5 oil before it was returned to service in 2019. Big Boy also carries 25,000 gallons of water.
Yeah, getting it.
Since I was driving, I didn't get to closely observe all the connecting rods, side rods, and links doing their thing. But reviewing the footage now, it's incredibly mesmerizing to watch those things work. With 300 psi of steam pressure and almost 24-inch cylinders, you can only imagine how much force is being applied to those 68-inch drive wheels. Getting this much time alongside Big Boy was already well worth the long drive to the middle of Nevada.
Rough road.
So on this side of the train, you have the guy that's hanging out the back. He's the called the pilot. He's the person that's qualified on the territory, making sure everything's going correctly. The guy in the seat under the number boards is called the fireman. And he's in charge of making sure the steam locomotive has an adequate fire and can make steam.
Big Boy was specifically designed to haul freight over the mountains, a task that took serious power. In fact, it would take 2 Challenger Type 4664 steam engines or 4 modern diesels to match Big Boy's pulling power. All 25 Big Boy steam locomotives were commissioned between 1941 and 1944. The American Locomotive Company, ALCO, delivered the first in September 1941, just 3 months before the attack on Pearl Harbor that officially led the United States into World War II. The last, number 4024, was commissioned in November of 1944, just 5 months after D-Day and less than a year before the war would be officially over. As a Jeep fan, I find the era Big Boy was produced in very interesting. After the prototypes were built by Willys, Bantam, and Ford in 1940, the Willys was selected and the first production units were delivered to the Army in 1941. Because Willys could not meet the production demand, Ford was employed to build them as well. By the end of the war, over 600,000 had been produced.
Look at this. It's filming. Oh yeah. We don't have it. We don't have any.
Watching Big Boy cross the desert got me thinking. It must have hauled many Jeeps for the war effort. I'm sure it hauled an enormous number of vehicles, including Jeeps, during the 20 years that it served before it was decommissioned. It's fun to think that it may have even hauled my dad's Willys pickup from where it was manufactured in Toledo, Ohio, to where it was sold here on the West Coast. Despite chasing Big Boy for several days across 2 states, this little frontage road was the only opportunity we found to shoot the train while matching its speed. It would have been rude to do it anywhere else, but here it was the appropriate speed and there were ample passing opportunities. We shared this awesome view with many rail fans between Dunphy and Battle Mountain. Many of us leapfrogged each other, so we traded positions a handful of times, and I think everybody got a great angle. And now I'll leave you alone for 2 minutes with Big Boy before we roll into Battle Mountain. here's Big Boy arriving in Battle Mountain. While I'm sure we would have enjoyed the whistle stop in Battle Mountain, we had to race ahead across the desert in order to beat Big Boy to our next vista point.
Here we are. Stopped along the highway. A lot of heat wave out here. In 1910, the Southern Pacific Railroad established this spot as a section point, and it officially became Valmy when it got the post office from Stonehouse, Nevada on March 24, 1915. All right, well, we just watched the train go by in Valmy. I think it's Valmy. It's basically a gas station and a post office and some C-store, and it says RV park on the sign, but I have no idea where you'd park an RV. Anyway, Big Boy just went by. We're back out on 80, doing 80, where it's legal to do 80.
Yeah. Next spot to shoot is going to be just east of Winnemucca. There's a river and a little bit of a valley. It's a little bit lush, so we'll get a couple good shots there. It's basically going to be it for the day, because after that, it's pulling into Winnemucca and it lays over there for the night. And we're going to pick it up tomorrow somewhere out on Jungo Rd, which is the road that follows the Western Pacific Railroad from Winnemucca all the way to Portola, more or less. There's a couple other small roads past Gerlach, but basically ride Jungo Rd from Winnemucca to Gerlach, Nevada, where they have Burning Man. So we'll see you from the playa at some point.
And there's the train. We're catching up to it. It's probably still doing 35 miles an hour or something.
Yeah, they're just chilling.
And we're doing 80, and we're basically parallel to the tracks, so we're going to be ahead of it within a minute or two. Like, it won't take long. But we're also not far from Winnemucca anymore. I think we might only be 20 miles from our next stop.
Yeah, 30 miles, something like that.
I don't know what this grade, if it has a name or not, but we're going to climb this grade here on Interstate 80. And the train is going that way out into the desert, where we're not going to go. And I think it's going to find a much more subtle grade to get over the mountains that are ahead of us.
The steepest mainline railroad grade in the United States is no greater than around 3%. There are a few spots where it's heavier, but 3% is usually about the maximum grade that they want to build railroads on, so it has to go out away from the mountain. The interstate just goes right over to gain elevation to come back around so it can continue its journey west.
And I'm not really sure what the grade can be on an interstate, but it's what, twice what the railroad can do?
We'll have to check that out and let you know, but somewhere around 8%. So we'll research that and get back to you.
On to whatever it's called.
Golconda is where we're headed.
Golconda.
It's a little spot, Midas Road area. Has a nice little bluff and it overlooks this river grade that the railroad leads up next to and follows mostly into Winnemucca.
It's gonna be pretty sweet. So this is Golconda Summit, 5,159 feet. At some point, we're looking for, what was that, Midas Road?
Midas Road.
Somewhere up here ahead of us.
It's coming up. The bottom of the hill.
Bottom of the hill. We want to go up there.
Oh. That's one way to do it. Just getting back to the spot that we identified from the previous photograph.
Yep. And we're gonna run up the hill and try and catch the train from up above. And contrary to what the video shows, I am kind of trying to keep most of this mud off the Jeep, but I think it's I can give up at this point. So here, we'll give up and we'll just drive in it. All right. So where's our turn? Is it right in here?
Right here, yes.
So we're gonna
just pull in right there.
We're gonna pull in here.
Correct. And we'll be right back. Yeah, I think I shot it from that ridge.
And there we are, parked at the bottom of the hill.
Off to Winnemucca.
Down the shale hill.
Yeah, most people choose to
go to easily accessible locations for photographs when it comes to trains. I choose the latter.
Yeah, a little bit of a challenge is fun. So we're gonna pull out of this spot.
Head back toward pavement and then on to Winnemucca.
That was a pretty cool vista. You said that was the hill you went up previously, yeah?
Yeah, that's the spot we had mapped out before. Choose to go to a slightly tougher location for the vista versus shoot it from a flat vantage point along trackside.
Yeah, we've had a couple of good flat trackside views already today. And so that elevated view with the river in the foreground was sort of a nice change.
And it's pretty interesting too because it's springtime, so everything around the river is dead still coming back to life. Last time I was in this location was in the middle of summertime, June, and it was pretty lush and green. I should probably put on my seatbelt.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Made it back to the road.
Who's coming? Nobody?
Go.
All right, jump out in front of these guys without holding them up, so give it a little beans here.
The chase is on.
The chase is on. We could probably, come on. Oh, it doesn't work right now.
No.
Never mind. I just mag mounted that Starlink and the washer fluid port is
Was
under it.
underneath it. Whoops.
That's all right. We have internet and it's been awesome.
That's funny.
Ignore it because it's the engine, so it was axle 2, over. Axle 2, okay, yeah. We couldn't hear that transmission there, part of it had cut out. The steam locomotive and the rest of the crew that we have on the train, so you might have them check that radio on that detector that might be defective or have some weak issue with it, over. Will do. Thanks for the heads up, over. Roger that, thank you, 4014 out.
So what the steam engine's talking about is since you have to actually have an open flame to boil water in a steam engine, there's trackside detectors that check trains for defects, mainly hot axles and dragging equipment. And this particular detector goes off thinking that there's a hot axle, when in reality it's the steam engine that's hot because it has an open flame inside of it to make steam. So it's a typical defect when you're running a steam locomotive on a modern railroad. The manager in charge of the steam engine on the steam engine will make the call if the detector picks up an axle that's not in the vicinity of the steam locomotive to stop the train and inspect. So they were just checking with the dispatcher right there because they didn't hear the full message, and the dispatcher confirmed that the defect that was reported was for the steam engine. So everything's good, and they're continuing.
Yeah, there it is. We're hoping to catch up to it here. We're doing 65 or so. And when we get on the highway, we can do 80.
Next stop's Winnemucca.
Looks like we're going to be exiting East Winnemucca Boulevard in, I don't know, half a mile.
There's a spot where the big boy's going to go from one railroad to another. Back in the 80s, it actually was two separate railroads, but between the mergers of the 80s and 90s, it's actually one railroad now. So they're just transferring from one line to another. That's going to change the direction the locomotive's traveling for tomorrow to head it more north toward Tola. If they continue on the direction they're on now, they're going to end up in Reno.
Which way do we go here?
We're going to make a right. No, we're not going to go straight.
Go straight?
Yeah, we got to get on the other side of the tracks. Wrong exit.
Send it!
That seems to happen sometimes.
All right, it's Winnemucca downtown east, and the tracks we're crossing over them right now.
Yeah, we need to find a East 2nd Street, and that gets us to the other set of railroad tracks.
So what do we do here?
I believe we are making a right.
Make a right? We only passed the train a short while ago, and we're only going twice its speed, so we really only have a few minutes.
One set of tracks is on our left, and the other set of tracks is on our right, so we're getting close to where we need to be.
And they're getting closer to each other.
That's what we want.
You know what railroads these were?
Yeah, the railroad that goes toward Portola was the Western Pacific Railroad, and the railroad that goes toward Reno is the Southern Pacific Railroad.
Now it's Union Pacific?
Now it's Union Pacific. The Union Pacific acquired the Western Pacific in 1981, and the Union Pacific then acquired the Southern Pacific in 1996.
Do we go here or keep going?
Go straight.
Because that's the other tracks.
Hey, look on the map. We're still doing okay, I think.
You can see the track right here, out my window. So we're right next to the track it's not on.
Ah, the junction is called Wesso.
Which side do we want to be on?
We want to be where they're going from one track to the other.
So it's red.
Yeah, so go
Okay, we're crossing over the tracks right here.
down the tracks.
And we need to pass this garbage truck.
Get wiped off the road by the garbage truck.
And they're already red signal, so this is imminent. And we're driving toward the train, so we're losing time. There it is.
Yeah, right here.
Right here, stop.
Where it says Wesso.
So we're pulling off.
And right there, so we can stand on the Jeep maybe? Right there, perfect.
All right.
Here
And
we
we've
are.
got our spot. Here it is. There's Big Boy in the distance coming at us. Ben's down below. He's gonna shoot a longer shot, and I'm gonna give you the wider view here. I'm on top of the Jeep, so that gives me about a 36-inch boost over ground level, standing on the rear tire. There's the Jeep. On to Winnemucca. There it is, coming into Winnemucca over that, what do you call that?
Crossover.
Crossover?
Yeah, so that was the final shot of the day. Steam engine's about 1.5 miles from town. We're right behind it, so we're gonna chase it into town a little bit and check it out at the station.
It turns out Wesso is an interesting spot with unusual history. The Western Pacific Railroad and the Southern Pacific Railroad agreed to share their tracks here to allow a directional running of trains. Eastbound trains ran Western Pacific's Feather River route, while westbound trains ran Southern Pacific's overland route. It was very rare for railroads to work together like this, but the benefit was very clear, and Union Pacific still uses these sections of rail in the same way today. Here we are in Winnemucca, Nevada, where Union Pacific number 4014 will spend the night. Big Boy covered over 100 miles of track today and is due for some service. Steam engines require frequent lubrication, and with this many drive wheels, Big Boy needs a lot. If we zoom in here, you can see the crew greasing the rods using an air-operated grease gun. It injects a thick grease, almost like a heavy wax, at 20,000 psi. From what I've heard, the crank pins and rod brasses use bronze bushings and should be greased every 80 miles, while the axles ride on giant Timken roller bearings. Here you see the truck that just arrived to refill Big Boy. The tank that was added during the restoration carries 6,100 gallons of No. 5 fuel oil. I've read that 4014 consumes 20 to 25 gallons of fuel oil and about 200 gallons of water per mile, and that it can be as much as 240 gallons per mile at full throttle. With less water stops than were present when steam was typical along these routes, Big Boy carries extra. The tender only holds 25,000 gallons of water, so 4014 pulls 2 auxiliary tenders, each carrying another 25,000 gallons. And here's the crew refilling various oilers. With the fuel truck, the crew, and the freight passing by, this scene really demonstrates just how massive Big Boy is. The information I'm sharing with you is just what I could learn from Ben, the Union Pacific website, and a few other sources I've looked up. I am by no means a train expert, so if you know some interesting things about 4014 or anything I show you in this video, leave a comment. I'd love to learn more. Like this guy here, I have no idea what he's doing. Here's another fun thing I learned. When the first Big Boy, number 4000, rolled out of ALCO, someone had written Big Boy in chalk on the smokebox door, and the Union Pacific crew often does this today, commemorating that moment. I also learned that it takes the crew 4 days to fire Big Boy up from dead cold, and though it could be done faster, this is best for the engine as thermal expansion is significant. And while I'm on the fun facts train, the restoration of Big Boy took 2.5 years, and that they originally cost $265,000 each, or about $5.7 million in today's dollars. Big Boys make about 7,000 horsepower and can pull a 5-mile train on level ground. We really enjoyed watching the crews service Big Boy today. Also, this is where we ran into the first of many foreigners that flew to the United States to see Big Boy in action. That really demonstrates just how fortunate we are to have this opportunity. This final stop in Winnemucca was a great way to wrap up a long day of chasing, and we had no idea just how incredible the chase across the Black Rock Desert would be the next day. We discovered the Martin Hotel Basque restaurant, ate like kings, and took leftovers. I was pretty excited about the ribeye I would take for breakfast. We fueled up the Jeep and turned off the last pavement we'd see for 100 miles. This is Jungo Rd. So I think we found our campsite for the night. We're gonna camp somewhere here near this railroad track. Only because this is where we're going to shoot the train in the morning. And who doesn't want this for a view? Look at this.
Here we have been setting up to spend the night in the guest suite.
Lower penthouse.
In the lower penthouse. There.
Blow up my nice backpacking bed.
Here, you want to turn your hatch light on? Yeah, I'll demonstrate. So as we come back around the hatch and you can't see anything, there's a switch on the door right here. Boop. It turns on the light. And that custom Trek box storage bin that we had made to complete the rear section under the Ursa Minor has been absolutely game-changing because it offers enough length that somebody who isn't 6'2" can sleep comfortably. And you stuffed your duffel here between the seat, huh? That's how you extended your sleep length.
Uh-huh.
So in my case, the pillow is the only piece of bedding I cannot fit in the Ursa Minor due to the extra thick mattress and the storage situation I built up there. But yeah, here you can see we're all lit up. That's his bedding situation. You're gonna want to grab your duffel, I think.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put the duffel right here.
This Jeep, Ashley and I spent a lot of time building it to support our travel needs. And then, what was that, 2 years ago? No, it was last year, wasn't it?
Went to King of the Hammers?
Yeah. Ben and I did our first guys trip where we camped in the Jeep after we discovered that this long Trek box surface here would serve as a nice guest suite.
For someone that's 5'8" or shorter.
Yep. Here's this.
Guess I could just deploy this too, huh?
Yeah, your sleeping bag?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a truck.
Rigs running the haul road, huh?
Yeah, so there's our step-in area. There's his bed area. You can open the Ursa Minor from inside or outside. I find it's a lot easier to just open it from outside. So there's a pull strap right here. When you pull that, it opens the latches at the back. Gotta unlatch it.
There are latches over there.
And I put new hatch struts on this when I put the solar on it and everything. So you get it past right about there and it just does the rest on its own, which is kind of nice. 4 inches of memory foam. I'm kind of looking forward to that.
The Taj Mahal awaits.
I've got phone chargers and watch chargers and all that stuff. And so that gets turned on with this switch here. That switch there turns on all the lights and everything, and powers everything inside the Ursa Minor. And then entry, for those who aren't familiar with these things, entry is, you push this hatch up. Normally I slide it forward like this, but there's my sleeping bag. There's the inside. So it's nice, it's tall enough to stand up in. I guess we can grab some camera gear and go play. So we're gonna photograph the Jeep. And amazingly enough, this camera can autofocus on the light that's in the tent. The iPhone can barely pick up. And then we're gonna take my little tiny flashlight out, and the tent has enough glow to light itself, but the rest of the Jeep is awful dark. And you can see we're gonna paint the Jeep with the flashlight, like that, a little bit up there. I just bumped the camera, so I probably ruined the shot. We'll see. Turn the light off. And there it is. Let's see what we got. If I go to view the photo, focus, there we go. There's what we shot just now. Out here in the dark. Here, I'll light it up for real. So there's the actual Jeep that the iPhone can't even focus on. Good morning, sir. Yeah. Now you can see this is the guest suite. With enough daylight that if you're not tall, you fit right there perfectly. Okay. And mine's all put away already. And yeah, looks like it's gonna be a beautiful sunrise. Got lots of time this morning. Make some breakfast. Have some coffee, and wake up.
Here we are shooting the sunrise. And I think we're getting some cool stuff. Oh yeah. Awesome morning. Now that the sun is up, breakfast is cooking. Water's in the fridge.
Oh, too bad you're using your phone, otherwise we could tell you how much solar you're making right now.
We're gonna do that. We just checked our solar. So the sun has climbed just slightly over the horizon here. And here, we'll go find our way up onto this rock. So the sun's pretty low on the horizon, and it's just starting to hit the Jeep. And we're pointed, about 45 degrees too far to the west to be pointed at it, but we're making about 15 watts already. It was 11 when we first checked, and it was already 13 before I closed the app, so it's coming up quick.
The weather keeps trending colder for next weekend, which I am getting kind of excited about.
That could be great. We have mine and his Milwaukee because my ARB's given me a fit. From all the troubleshooting we've done, it looks like the pressure switch has gone bad on our ARB. And so it cycled rapidly and then occasionally doesn't want to work. And so the answer has been to get a new pressure switch and a couple of relays, but they're not going to ship for a while. So we brought portable Milwaukees, and that'll let us air up, 2 tires at a time. But I'm not going to cancel a trip over having a compressor failure. All right, update on the solar. So I don't know if you can hear, fridge here's running. Sun's up there now. We're making 28 watts with the fridge running, Starlink, and the inverter with electric lunchbox, and we're at 12.4 some odd volts. So that's working out perfectly. We aired down to about 19 PSI, as that would be appropriate for some high-speed dirt road travel. See how this thing turned out. Ribeye? Mushrooms? Pretty damn good. We enjoyed our breakfast as all the other rail fans arrived. A number of them assembled here to photograph 4014.
Who says you can't off-road while you're chasing trains?
track of
How many flat tires people have today?
Jungo Rd does not parallel the tracks here, so it's important we make good time, or we may not see Big Boy again for the rest of the day. I had been hoping for a chance to photograph the Jeep with Big Boy, but hadn't found the right opportunity. Fortunately, we made good time, and our next stop gave me that chance, along with some of my favorite pictures of the Jeep. That was an awesome stop. Now we have to make up some time so we can photograph the train against a backdrop of the Black Rock Desert.
Well, it's a little windy as it is in the desert always, but this is the next location. Some of you might recognize it. This is the Black Rock Desert, where they have Burning Man, just outside Gerlach, Nevada.
And we've got our high perch here on top of the Jeep to get us a nice backdrop. There it is.
Great shot.
And now we'll try to beat Big Boy into Gerlach.
track coming up.
We slowed down a bit here so we wouldn't bury these guys under a giant cloud of dust. And it looks like they were rooting for us to catch the train.
Yeah, you're the best people.
Here we hit pavement for just a moment before we turn to the dirt again for the next couple of hours.
Out of Gerlach now, we're headed to a spot in the road called Sand Point. It includes another 40.
Sand Point?
Sand Pass?
Sand Pass.
That's it, yeah. So Sand Pass is where we're going. And includes another 40, 50 miles of gravel road or so. So the only other alternative to get to this location would be to go south of Gerlach, back to Fernley, to Reno, to 395, to Doyle on the highway, and then cut into this location from that side. So we were taking the more than scenic route, but shorter route.
Yep, doing this gravel road business out here. I can't say if it's super well maintained. Ever since we got the shocks put together and since we aired this thing down to 20 pounds this morning, it basically just has been floating over everything other than big bad washes across the road. But yeah.
So, check in with you in a bit.
We're doing 70. So I think we ought to be able to get there in decent time.
I think we should beat the train. That's good. The whole point of this trip is get there before the train does.
Air conditioning is keeping us cozy.
The hum of 3.6 liters of
Fury.
angry Chrysler engineering.
Slow down for this guy.
Sand Pass was a great photo spot, and it brought a lot more train enthusiasts than we had seen earlier in the day. We were not the first out of there, so our trip to Doyle took quite some time. And while we did not catch the train coming into town, it did stop long enough for us to air up the tires and photograph it on its way out.
Airing up.
Big Boy is now steaming toward Portola, where it will spend the night, but not before we capture some of our favorite pictures of the day. Unfortunately, this is where we interrupt our chase for a few days as 4014 sits in Portola and then makes its way west to Roseville. We plan to pick it back up as it heads east over Donner Pass. And now for a little bonus footage Ben captured while Big Boy was in Roseville.
We're back. Sadly, we had to stop the chase before going down 70. Not that we really wanted to fight the crowds, but gasoline and Jeeps are not free. So each of us had to go back to work for a couple of days.
Yeah, so here we are. The route's been modified. We're not going over Donner today, unfortunately. Not to add a little shade on the subject, but their whole big publicity thing about the Big Boy was mile 0 of the Transcontinental Railroad. On Friday, there was a big media publicity thing about them starting their coast-to-coast journey, and they won't really be traversing any of the Transcontinental Railroad until they get back to Winnemucca. So they're going back through the Feather River Canyon today due to snow. There was snow on Donner last night. They've gotten about 18, 19 inches of fresh snow on Donner Summit, and they didn't want to take the Big Boy that way. So now we're headed probably toward Marysville first, and then Oroville, and then places further east in the Feather River Canyon.
We waited for a while at this crossing north of Marysville before learning that 4014 was delayed by some oncoming freight. So we left to find Big Boy in the siding here in Olivehurst, where this awesome 1941 power wagon caught my attention. When we learned of a motorcycle with a flat tire just a few cars back, the owner of the power wagon and I got right to work. Having the portable compressor along sure worked out. Here you can see him plugging the tire just in time to pack up and catch Big Boy pulling out. After leaving the Marysville area, we raced up the canyon ahead of the steam engine to find a spot overlooking the North Fork Bridge. We heard they were running a high rail ahead of Big Boy, so this was a good sign. It meant we likely weren't too late to watch 4014 cross the longest reinforced concrete bridge in America. If you like the sound of that Hancock long bell 3-chime steamboat whistle Big Boy has, you're in for a treat, as this canyon is just the right venue. And here comes the best example of that articulation I mentioned on the first day. In case you missed it, Big Boy is hinged in the middle to allow it to follow curves in the tracks like you see here. But the boiler is rigid. Only the lower part of the locomotive pivots. You can clearly see the pilot wheels and forward set of drivers pointed in a different direction than the boiler and rear of the engine. You'll also get a clear view of this misalignment in one of the photographs coming up, as well as the low camera angle afterward. There were tons of people out to see the train here along Highway 70, and we were pretty far off the highway for that last shot, so we skipped the iconic Polga bridges in order to get ahead of Big Boy. Fortunately, we were able to find a spot to park among the crowds here at the Tobin bridges for our next shot. The level of effort required to keep up has increased significantly. Traffic on Highway 70 and consistent heavy rain meant we really had our work cut out for us, but we did manage to stay ahead of the train and keep our gear dry enough. With how much rain we've been getting, I can only imagine what Donner Pass looks like. Maybe Union Pacific made the right call taking Big Boy this way. Maybe we'll even go see for ourselves. Back out on the highway, the best we could do was crawl along with traffic, but it still resulted in lots of incredible views like this. And then we caught this interesting exchange on the radio.
Go ahead, over. Yeah, you got a scope light flashing on that Walker D. It's probably the power car. It's the steam through the tunnels is hitting off the smoke alarms in the hallway. Alright. I'll get up there in just a few minutes and reset it.
Like that defect detector Ben explained earlier, this is another example of modern equipment misinterpreting a steam engine under normal operation. I'd bet the crew running Big Boy is made up of some of the best. They're not only running an 85-year-old machine, they're doing so on a busy modern railroad with today's safety requirements, and I can't imagine it's an easy task. With all this traffic in the canyon, we weren't sure we would make it to our next stop to see 4014 pass by again. At this point, we weren't far from Portola, where Big Boy would spend its final night in California, and we would end our chase. Fortunately, we had no idea these last 3 stops would be some of the most incredible photo opportunities we'd get on this multi-day journey. With the rear of the train this close, you can hear that smoke detector we talked about earlier. And here's the high rail. You know what that means. Now, let's go see what that storm over Donner Pass looked like. Due to the enormous number of people who drove up the canyon to see 4014, we figured it best to head home a different way. And we might as well continue the adventure by checking out Donner Pass and the late season snowstorm that forced the reroute of Big Boy. Speaking of, when we first heard of the reroute, we were disappointed, as we'd been planning our trip over Donner for a while. But now that we've been around the Heritage Tour a bit, I'm of a different opinion. While I bet this locomotive would have no trouble at all climbing over Donner and even the heaviest snowstorm, the conditions up here would have made all the other logistics a complete nightmare. Managing the crowds that came to see 4014 appeared to take considerable resources from Union Pacific and the California Highway Patrol. I can't imagine how much of a mess it'd be if the same number of people added to the mess that's already up here anytime it snows. I now understand Union Pacific's decision to reroute, and with the views we got today, I couldn't be happier. Believe it or not, this is Interstate 80 near Donner Pass. It isn't often you'll get to drive it without any cars in sight. And if you're a nerd who enjoys trip stats like me, you'll like this. By the time we returned home, we had done 1,609 miles, burning 111.94 gallons of gasoline, averaging 14.4 miles per gallon at a cost of $575.78. 206 miles of this route were unpaved, and we don't know just how many were snow-covered like this. Also, no road trip is complete without proper snacks, so we pulled off the highway here to enjoy the snow and some cheesecake. And now I need to specifically thank Ben and all the people at Union Pacific that made this trip possible. If it weren't for Ben, I'd have never had this incredible experience. He's influenced me to experience trains a few times, like the time he got Ashley and I to ride the Durango and Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad, but this time it really stuck. As for Union Pacific, very few companies dedicate resources to preserving and sharing history for all to enjoy. And the more I learn about the massive effort it took to make this happen, the more I appreciate what they've done for us. I want to thank every person at Union Pacific that had any part in making this a reality. Between you, the DNSNGRR, Ben, and others, you've made a real rail fan out of me. If you're a serious railroad fan and want to see more, check out Ben's Instagram, XSP2467, and leave me a comment with some cool railroad information I likely haven't heard yet. And if you like the travel, camping, and Jeep angle, and possibly want to see more, mostly not train related, check out our YouTube channel. And finally, please hit the like button. Thank you for watching.